Luke is our guest host today. Lee, where'd he go? Did he go outside?
No, we certainly haven't.
There we go. Come up here. You gotta come up here, Lee. They can't hear you.
What? This person went to Coon Rapids High School. The next name is Cardinal.
You gotta do it back. They can't hear you.
His first car was a 1967 Mustang Coupe convertible.
Wow.
With racing slicks.
Wow.
The worst job that he ever had was delivering his brother's papers. He's traveled on 2 continents. He has 4 children, no grandchildren. His favorite hobby is acting. That could be a lot of things.
Yes. I don't know his name. Yell it out. Mike?
And his current work position is a lawyer.
Yep, that's right.
Mike Novak.
Good to see you. Yes, I had a 67 Mustang Coupe, but I didn't have the coupe convertible. Now, if you'll all please stand and shake hands with each other, there's some guests here. Make sure you say hello to new people.
Sit down.
How are you? Hey, Dave, how are you?
Okay, folks, on the ball. Today, there is some of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? We'll build goodwill and better friendships. Will be beneficial to all concerned. Renee, you're ready to do the invocation?
I am.
Literally, way to get up here, folks.
Thank you.
Smile, you're on camera. Whoops.
Back here, that's going to be.
First day of summer tomorrow. So let us bow in prayer. Thank you, Father, for the gift of Rotary and each other. Bless this food as we nourish our bodies and our minds. We ask you to be with each and every one of us as we move about our daily lives, always keeping in mind the special talents you have given us. Through our service to all, we thank you for all our gifts. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, and I think John Bussell is going to lead us in singing. What are we going to sing, John?
Well, I tell you what, it was really difficult to figure out what to say on the last day for a song. The only one I could think of was my grandfather's clock, number 10. And we'll do it for Kermit. My grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf, so it stood 90 years on the floor. It was taller by half than the old man himself, though it weighed not a penny weight more. It was born on the morn of the day that he was born, and was always his treasure and pride. But it stopped short, never to go again when the old man died. 90 years without slumbering, his life seconds numbering. It stopped short, never to go again when the old man died. It rang an alarm in the dead of the night, an alarm that for years had been dumb. And we knew that his spirit was blooming for flight, and his hour for departure had come. Still the clock kept the time with a soft and muffled chime, as we silently stood by his side. But it stopped short, never to go again when the old man died. 90 years without slumbering, his life seconds numbering. It stopped short, never to go again when the old to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Okay, thank you, John. Please be seated. Although I tell you, being thought as the old man died is my last song. Thank you. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of leery of moments like that one. Okay. Our greeter today was quite a few of us, but back there, what do you have there for us? Any guests back there? Do we have any guests that you saw, any visiting Rotarians, I should say? On the list? Oh, you're here. Warren Deacon is here. All right. Well, while you're back, to draw the winning number, Mark. We have somebody draw the winning number for the loot. Take your little ticket out, folks. Tom says, what? What are we talking about? Come on, Tom. It's only been a year.
777495.
495. Who's got the ticket? Oh, right over here. Mr. Jake has it there. All right, we're giving the loot. I'll take care of it later. You set that back there. Thank you. Thanks for sitting in there. Okay, we're going to do a little introduction to guests. We have a few. Let's start with incoming President Drew Hultgren. Introduce his family who's here.
Yes, fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce, if they'd stand, starting first of all with the youngest person over there, Madison. You might recall my daughter that went with us on the Dominican project trip, Madison Hultgren. Next to her is my mom, Sharon Hultgren. And next to her is my father, Dale. And some of you might know Dale from when he was a past president at the Cokato-Dassel Rotary Club. Actually, I think for 2.5 years, right? If I remember that, due to strange circumstances. And I think he served with John Pucel on the Ambassadorial Scholarship Committee.
Many years.
Many years ago. And then my wife Carla as well, who also came with me on the Bangkok trip just recently. So please welcome my family.
Other best guests around here that I don't see or do see. Okay, well, we have some members.
I'd like to reintroduce Heather Weems. Heather is the Director of Athletics at St. Cloud State. She has been approved for membership and starts her 5 of 8 today.
Yes, welcome, Heather. Okay.
Member transition, Tom Olson, food and beverage manager at St. Cloud Country Club. And as long as I am up, Monday, July 23rd, Rotary Golf Tournament Summer Social at St. Cloud Country Club. And we'll have registration lights out, email-wise, and at the studio.
Okay, so that's the golf outing on July 23rd. So make sure you mark it on your calendars. It's always a lot of fun. All right, any other guests that we have that I missed? Okay, we have some different announcements. Can you believe that Diane Kroska probably wants to say something about Summertime by George? Come on up so they can hear you.
It's really nice when I don't even have to ask. He just puts me on the camera.
Don't kick the camera. It's bad luck. That's what they say.
Okay, a few things this morning, afternoon. First, you'll all notice I have the June and July schedule done, hot off the press. So you can look through for your name. Now, this morning, last time I used email from Club Runner, it didn't work. And I was told hopefully it was a glitch and it's working. So this morning, if you're scheduled for June 27, I sent out an email. If you do not get that email, would you please let me know, then I know it's not working. But once it's gone, I just assume it's working. So let me know if you don't get that email, if you're scheduled for next week. And then I'll have to do it a longer way. Okay, last week, we figured about 4,000 people at Summertime by George. And you know what I thought was really interesting is we had a real nice crowd. And it was in the upper 60s and overcast. And I said, you know, if I were sitting at home, I'd not be saying, well, gee, it's so nice, let's go someplace. And so I think a crowd of 4,000 last week was very good. I have some halos and pitchforks. Now, do you remember when the Times used to have halos and pitchforks? Yeah, I kind of miss that. So, I miss halos and pitchforks. A couple of pitchforks. We were a little short-staffed at the beginning, and we had a few people show up late that kind of put me in a tizzy. So, pitchforks for that. A pitchfork to me. I got kind of stressed after a few hours of trying to get everything done, and if I snapped at anybody, I'm very sorry.
Too bad.
And then this is kind of both a pitchfork and a halo. Do you know that there's only 7 people in this club that have not signed up to work?
Whoa.
That is good. So pitchfork to those 7, but for over 100 of you that signed up, lots of halos. You'll notice on your table you have some cards and a couple things from Magnetic Spark. Kim at Magnetic Spark provided our t-shirts, and I have to tell you, her pricing was very competitive. She's been very professional, and we've had 1 or 2 glitches, and she has taken care of them so well. I have just been pleased to work with her, so I've given her a halo. Committee chairs, all the committee chairs that have worked so hard over the last several months so that the first night went so well, and that the rest of the summer will go well. They deserve lots of halos too. And then I was just, I was so pleased. There's so many of you Rotarians that were not scheduled last week, but you stopped by the booth. Our command center seems to be the pop and water booth, right? And so many of you stopped by and just said, hey, I'm here. Do you want me to do anything? Do you need extra help? And you guys, thank you for that, and you deserve halos. And then lastly, the volunteers that stayed to clean up, we were 95% put away, packed up, and done by 9:20 last week because everybody stayed, so you get lots of halos too. Tomorrow, there is, the forecast is for 70 degrees. Now that has changed 3 times this morning, but Monday I start watching the weather. By Tuesday I watch it regularly, and by Wednesday I'm glued to the weather. So right now they're saying a 30% chance of rain for tomorrow afternoon. Let's hope that changes. Our band tomorrow night is Monroe Crossing, Bluegrass, and the sponsor is the Rotary Club. So hope y'all come out and have a good time. Thank you.
Okay, Cindy Hawker, can we get you to come up for a quick presentation while band's up front? If you want to stand right in front of here for a minute so the camera can see you. Come up right by her. Right up here, right in front of here, both of you. So they come out so the camera can see you. Oh, they're fighting over who gets up here. Go ahead.
All right.
I have a wonderful present for the entire Rotary Club, especially for Summertime by George Workers. A beautiful check for $5,000 from the Central Minnesota Arts Board. That's legacy funds to help put on the first, hopefully, annual Arts and Crafts Fair that we're working on.
Thank you, Cindy. And John Bodette wants to put on Janelle Kendall's outfit. What? Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. Put on a message.
Janelle asked me to pass this along from Sergeant Lori Ellring, that you remember when she came and talked about the Can-Am volunteer need. Apparently they still need help with the track and field events on Friday the 29th at Apollo High School, and with the triathlon this Sunday, in the pristine waters of Lake George. We'll be there. So if anybody can volunteer, they would do it. You sign up at the website, which is stcloudcanam.com. So if you can take some time to volunteer on those days, they would appreciate it. So,
okay. Thank you, John. All right. And who else do I have here? I have myself saying, I'm now going to be in Troy Fritz's shoes. No, mine are bigger. And ask Tom Rickers to come up. Tom, we have. Oops. Last week, Troy was here. We handed out the Paul Harris pins, and we have one now for Tom Rickers. It's a Paul Harris +1. This is the support of the Rotary International Foundation, the money that helps us with our international work and the major projects we do. So, Tom, thank you, plus the local money. good. Now, I know Cindy, we'll get you back up here, and I didn't see Brad Hansen come in. Did Brad come in? I didn't see him. Well, we'll get Cindy here. There we are. One of the things we do is after you've done your number of meetings and the help other part, you get rid of the red badge and get a blue badge. So let's welcome Cindy as a blue badge member of the club. And the $5,000 check is part of the blue badge ceremony. Thank you.
High expectations.
All of a sudden Heather said, yeah, we think this all. Okay, we're not going to do Tony Goddard's opportunities right now. Only I'll tell you the reason we're not is he's concerned that there are people who might not quite have all the fun. Of course, they're not all here. He wants to get a few more of them here, so we'll get them next week maybe. So, how about happy dollars? Anybody happy about anything? Oh boy, it's a tough looking crowd. Well, Ed, my ear. Let's see if that squeaks. Bring it up here.
I'll kick it off.
Come on.
I have a happy dollar. After 7 weeks absence, my wife is actually coming back on Friday, and that's kind of good news and bad news. The good news is she's coming back. The bad news is I've been driving her Volvo.
I have some happy bucks because at the Summertime by George, I was standing by the stage in my orange shirt when the mayor said, you know, the Rotarians in their orange shirts really did a great job with this. They all deserve a hug. 4 extremely attractive middle-aged women jumped up, ran over and gave me hugs and everything like that. And so I appreciated my wife was next to me. She went over and said, that's my husband, and leave him alone. So, and she said, I'm just joking. And, but I've never been prouder to be a Rotarian with this club. So.
Tony Goddard, we may work that one on for an opportunity on the here. All right. All right.
I have a happy buck, and it probably should be a lot more than that. I have a idea that Tony's going to hit me up anyway. So, I did get to meet the president last Monday. So a week ago Monday, my little sister and I were in the Oval office, got to meet the president. He spent some time, you know, talking. He had a lot of questions for her, which was really, you know, special for her. So it's quite an experience. And to top it off, while we were waiting in the waiting room, Betty White came in, and she was visiting the president as well. So we got to meet Betty White too. Had some private meetings with Senator Amy Klobuchar and Al Franken, so it was a great trip and a great experience for both of us.
Well, here comes Steve. A couple happy bucks. One is I had the opportunity this last weekend to see Steve Jewell at the Boy Scout camp with his son, and boy, he plays the part. Marching in line, and last I saw him, I think the mosquitoes were hauling him away, but I'm glad to see he was able to find his way back home. It was a good time, a great weekend for Scout Camp. And secondly, don't forget to join us July 12th for our lawn social. That's our Boy Scout fundraiser hosted by Jim and Tammy Younger at their home, and Gary and Wendy Burkanis, our chairs, and we have a lot of board members here that are out selling tickets. So join us. It's a good evening of fellowship.
All right. All right, Steve, come on up.
Well, my happy buck was for Dave and the whole crew. We had the pleasure of staying at the Castle, and if you haven't seen Miller Castle up at Parker Scout Reservation, I'd encourage you to get up there and see it. And really, a lot of Rotarians here in this building, or in this room today, gave money to make that possible. So I have happy buck for that. What a wonderful place for kids. And we had a great time, and actually my back went out over the weekend because I was doing all kinds of activities I wasn't used to doing. So it was great. So a happy buck for that. Another happy buck for the foundation every year gives away our professional award in philanthropy to honor a professional advisor in this community. And this year, that person happens to be a member of this club. It's Steve Laraway. So I wanted to give a happy buck in honor of Steve. Thank him for his leadership in the community in that way. And then last thing, well, two things. One is Women on Stage at the Ranch, the Bowerly Ranch, next week, Tuesday night. Come out to that. And the final one is in honor and recognition for Jim Dwyer's great year of service to Rotary.
my happy buck. I have a few happy bucks for having had a great time for 2 weeks in Germany. I was a little bit late last time that I couldn't. I visited my whole family with a whole trip to Germany on public transportation, which is wonderful. I just enjoy. And then a great conference in Berlin. So if anyone who never was in Berlin, that's really a great place to go. And a happy buck for my youngest son turning 21 and bringing his girlfriend home and being able to show him and her from 2003 in the Paramount Voice on Broadway. And she thought he was really cute there as well.
There you go. All right.
Boy, I can hardly top that. Meeting the president and a trip to Germany, my gosh. My small little happy buck is I ran the Grandma's Half Marathon the 9th time last weekend, and despite the lack of training, I ended up cranking out a personal record somehow here, and I'm pretty excited about that. So, good for you. Better luck next week.
Mr. Past President.
Well, it's an honor to be here today, especially because of Drew's activity. And it makes us terribly happy and proud that he has joined Rotary and is now your upcoming president. So one of the happy bucks is for that. And then the second one is that on Saturday of this week, Drew celebrates his birthday too. So here's another one.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move into the program area, which is going to be actually me and Drew speaking for a little bit. It's time for the changing of the guard. And we normally do that at the last meeting, but due to a scheduling request by the president of St. Ben's, anyway, so the president of St. Ben's, we have moved her there, and we're going to do it this week. Although next week I will still be up here, but I won't have my presidential tie on or something like that, so you'll know it's different. Is that okay? Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to do is just go through the last year. I have a thank you to a number of people. Everyone has been very helpful, as we know, and I'll go over that briefly. But a few people have done extra, and you have to know how much work it takes to make this club not only meet every week, but also be successful in so many ways. And I'd like to take time to thank certain people and show you what we're talking about with what people mean. First off, we had a few changes all over. I went through and kept with me all the time, the 3-year plan and the updated 3-year plan, which we in October of 2010, before I started, looked at. And on that, there were a few things that people wanted to see changed, but overall there was a lot of happiness with how the club was doing. And that's thanks to the leadership of Renee and David and Diane Marcotte, who put this together along with, we have had a good club, and my goal was to keep the club hopefully as good and improve it a little bit if I can. There were a couple of things that were requested. One is to change the fundraising. From having where there was envelopes passed around to put in $10 or a nickel to all these other things, to have 2 of them separated by about 4 months. So we put the car raffle together, and it was Summertime by George, and then we did the Rotary International in the fall with Troy Fitzbrand in November. And we did do that, and we ended up with the most successful fundraising we've ever had, raising over $33,000 between Summertime by George and the car raffle. We set a good basis for it, and we hope to have it. So that was one of the pieces that was asked for and implemented. And then there was a talk about increasing the club membership, but not sacrificing the quality. That's to say, and we have done that. The club is now, I think, it's 121, with about 3 members in transition. So we're doing very well. It's going to be very nicely, and Drew will talk about his and Steve's ideas for the future. But we have raised the club, and it's been fun to have all the new members and the long-term members who've stayed. It's just a great club. And we wanted quality programming. And I think you have to admit that John Bodette and Janelle Kendall and Joan and Vincent, the others have pulled together some fabulous programs. You have walked away from here learning more, knowing more, and caring more about what you heard about. That is what I think from every program we've had. And thank you very much. We should give those a special round of applause. take a look and see. And one of my personal goals has been to get to have you know each other better, to talk to each other, which is why I've asked you to shake hands and why I've asked you to do other things, where we get a chance to meet, to see who you are at the table. I think, Greg, wasn't it you who said you were at lunch and point you up at lunch and somebody asked, oh, do you ever want to be in the Rotary Club? And you said, I've been in the club for a while. And they went, oh. And if, it's kind of one of those things where I need people to know who each other is. I'd like to have that, so I hope that's been something that you have found acceptable and enjoyable. The club financially is better off than it was when we started. We have more money in the foundation, which will be talked about later. We have more money in the account. All the bills are up and pieces have come together. So I think that we can say that it's been a good year of programming, a very good year of solid club building, and a good year of fellowship. And we look forward to being done with it. It's kind of bittersweet because I like it, but at the same time, it takes a lot of time. And those who are past presidents go, yes it does. And those who are future presidents go, Steve, really? So we'll see. So anyway, I want to make some thank yous here first off to get it going. And I don't think the same way as anybody else. I just know I don't. It's been pointed out to me many times by many people. But one of the things that I do is I don't, to this time, is I didn't want to just give another piece of paper that was Xeroxed, nor get through a glass plaque that you put in the window or a rock that you threw out the window. So I went out of my way a little bit to do something different. I hope it's met with okay. One of my hobbies is making wine. I make very nice wines with grapes from California and Sonoma, and so for certain people who've been helpful, if you look at the year's thing, I made up a special batch of wine, and I have put a special label on it, which I would like to then hand out to a few folks who've been particularly helpful, and I'd like you to help me in thanking them for the work that they did to make this Rotary Club go. I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly, but I'd like to have it happen. And if you don't like this, and I know some people aren't fond of wine, so for like Bill Maney, my wife made fresh rhubarb strawberry jam from our house. So, in an effort to be thoughtful, this is about as far as I get. So, I need to have someone help me. Madison, can you help me? Can I get you to come up and help for a minute? Because I have to give your dad some of these awards too, so he can't be up here handing them out. All right, so you're going to open them, you're going to hand me one as we need them, okay? And they're here. You don't get to drink them, you're underage.
So close, yet so
Okay. First off, we have a number of things that make the year fun. Linda Dora, if you'll come up for a quick reading for her work helping to organize her staff and all of us for the cookout at St. Benedict's. At the St. Benedict Center, which gets a lot of people out there on a fun day and always windy. But thank you for that. Very nice, okay. And then the warm hands, warm hearts, we think was Christy Gilliland, but I don't think Christy made it in today. But we will thank her for that then. Rotary After Hours. All the guys and gals who come over to Rotary After Hours, Bill Maney puts that together, picks it up after Christmas. So come on up and you can have a bottle of wine with it, or we can have the jam, which
It's your call, bud.
you get the jam. I brought it special. My wife made it special with you in mind.
E-jam or?
What's that?
E-jam?
E-jam? It's strawberry rhubarb. All right, the rhubarb is for you. The strawberry rhubarb. Isn't that fun when you go to those some of the Thursday evening things and just sit for a little while and talk and do a little fellowship? The Christmas party, I asked Warren Keeton and Jerry Hirschfeld to come up there. And I say, even though Warren's a past member, come on up if you don't mind. Let's give you a round of welcome and thanks for that wonderful Christmas party. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah?
What do you want?
I'll go with jam.
You're about the jam, all right.
What, see?
Put the white there.
Hey, you're not afraid of
Last one more.
That was it.
No, it's in the other box. Hang on.
We are already 2 years ahead of time on planning the Christmas party, just so everybody knows.
We're still gonna be it.
We're still gonna be it.
And then Summertime by George. Of course, where would we be without Mark Christensen's support last year. Mark, you were the one who put it together during my term last year, so you got to come up. And Diane Kraska. David Tripp is up fishing. So come on up here, Julie. Let's give them a special look for last year's work. Thank you. And trust me, the wine is good. We did taste it and sample it when we bottled it. So it is good. Show that they're out. All right, thank you. And the first car raffle, I was going to again mention it to Christy Gilliland for helping us because she was so helpful having her staff bring that car to all those places and the rest of it. So we'll have to talk to her another time. And of course, our Dominican project, and what made us so successful this year, and one of it, a major thing was the Dominican project with Drew Holtgren. This is one of our biggest things that we did outside of the summertime by George. So Drew pulled together this great piece to go down and get people down there. So let's give him a great round of applause. We even have the flag, so just a reminder of what we did and the work that we went down there for that and how that has made our club, we'll set that back there, more international. And then Troy is not here, but I wanted to mention that we had 100% participation, and Troy Fritz deserves credit for that, so I'd like to give him at least a round of applause that he can watch for on TV. Justin Wampak, I didn't see Justin come in. On the Kids Against Hunger program, we'll get him. And then the highway and park cleanups with Chris Wolliver leading all that. So Chris, come on up and let's stand there. And let's see, Kids Against Hunger we talked about. Oh, Andrew Stile. Did Andrew get here? He was going to be here after, but he couldn't be here quite that time because he's the one who coordinates all the meeting coordinators. A big job. Janelle Kendall coordinated our Can-Am game request and also the Chinese school computer for our speaker, if you recall, from a few months ago. All right, St. Cloud Rotary Foundation has had a big chance. Alan Herbst needs to come up. Alan and Troy Fritz, but Alan Herbst is the president this year of the foundation, has been very instrumental in getting the whole thing rearranged to actually work with it and go. So let's give it. Down there. And then the governance committee. I had Diane Marcotte. I don't think Diane was able to make it. Diane is president of the governance committee. The governance committee is the people who have been present in the past, plus a couple of others, who help make sure that there's continuity each year. You don't need many, you don't even know there's a governance committee, but it quietly goes about its business, keeping the club, keeping the program, and keeping the overall view on track. It's a very helpful committee, and I just want to call attention to it. And then if I could get my board of directors to come up, I've got Drew Holtgren, incoming president, Vice President Steve Jewell, our treasurer Andy Ose, who has done all the billings for you. You still have to applaud. He's always kept us up there. And then Julie Whitney, Dave Haugen, Craig Ruckstein, and Kraska, Justin Wampak, and Dave Tripp. So come on up, you guys. We'll do it again here. Give her another one if you want to. No. All right. And let's see, there's a couple of little things. John Bodette deserves some special recognition, as we mentioned earlier, for the wonderful programming effort that he's done. So if I can get John Bodette to come up here. And Greg E. Tice for the leading the blood drive over and over again. And when they say you're a pint short, you should drink some liquid, try one of this one. And Mike Mullen. If Mike would come up, Mike has been not only a helpful in the background pushing, but has also taken over and getting some of the programming or some of these social things going on, including the Rocks games next week and things like that going. He stepped in the middle, and we want to say thank you and a special appreciation to Mike for that work that he's done in the past. So thank you. Okay, and with that, I am going to have say you can sit down. I think I'm pretty well done. Yes. I've got a few of the bottles I'll pass up to the other. I am going to say I hope, thank you all for your help, your support, for your kind words as we've gone along, for your contributions, for what you've done to make the club better. I've enjoyed getting to know so many of you so much more. The past year has been a lot of fun. I now am happy to and proud to leave the club in good shape and turn the gavel over to Drew. I'm taking the money.
All right, well, greetings, fellow Rotarians. I guess before I can even get started with my own remarks, I do want to give formal appreciation to Jim, our outgoing president. And so if I could ask Jim to come right back up here. Actually, I'll let him open this. It's the tradition of our club to give a gift to our outgoing president. It's a gavel that he can put on his wall, and it's a pin with a diamond in it that he can wear as past president of our club. So let's all give Jim one more big round of applause. Now I have to say, as I start, that for those that are going to be serving with me on board or in various committees, I don't have the hobby of making wine. So if you're doing it because you're anticipating a bottle of wine at the end of the year, I might as well disappoint you now. However, I do raise puppies as a hobby. Probably worth more than the bottles of wine. We can talk about that. And also the grandfather's clock song was appropriate, by the way, John, for, I don't know if this was on purpose or if you recall, but Kermit was actually my sponsor bringing him into the club, and so it's kind of a neat full circle kind of a thing. So I appreciate that, and makes us all think fondly of Kermit. So my purpose today is to kind of lay out for you my vision or goals for the coming year, and I've put together a little program. And if you'll hang with me on that, I'd like to kind of show you what I have in mind, and hopefully you'll kind of catch the vision that I'm going to cast out there, and we'll have a good year together. So a look at the year ahead. First of all, we did this actually a few weeks ago when we introduced the board. You'll notice Chris on the bottom is our happiest member on the board, so we appreciate that, Chris. By the way, that's an incentive for those of you that don't have a picture of the club's photo directory yet. You might want to do that. Yeah, you can read them up there, the incoming club officers. A great group of people are going to provide some good continuity. We happen to have a little bit of a unique situation. Both our secretary, Julie Whitney, and our current club treasurer, Andy Oj, are actually stepping down after a few years. They've assured me that it has nothing to do with me coming in as president, but they've each served for a number of years, and it's pretty typical to step down after a few. But actually, let's in particularly recognize both Julie and Andy for their work as treasurer. Andrew Stile has agreed to step in as secretary, and Chris Davis is going to work as treasurer, and those are big jobs, so we appreciate their willingness to do that. We also have other board members, and there's, as you'll see, some turnover on that as well, but there's some continuity as well with these, especially with our past president being on board and our vice president and so forth. We have some continuity. But as the club service, Mark Seehusen has been the membership committee chair. He's now going to be the club services director. Chris Wolliver is stepping in as the community services director, as Diane Croskett moves into the position of vice president. International services chair, Pat Edinburgh has agreed to step in, and we've got big plans, so we're excited to work with Pat on that in the future. And vocational service, Jill Mogelson. And then you can read, I want to highlight the last one in particular because this is a little bit unusual. I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel and in learning from past experience. And I've been a member of this club now for about 14 years. There's a lot of history to this club, as you all know. And I thought it'd be wise to have someone on the board to serve in sort of an advisory kind of a capacity. And I've asked Doug Holzkamp to be on the board. As I guess you could say an ex officio member, but as sort of in an advisory capacity, we're calling it past president emeritus. And I really appreciate Doug's willingness to do this. He's going to be on the board to kind of give us sort of some historical perspective as we go forward and make decisions in the future. So that's what that role is. We also have a number of committees that I want to highlight. Brian Pepping is going to be stepping in as our new membership committee chair. I'm excited about that. Public relations, Kevin Alinger. This is right in Kevin's sweet spot, and I think we're going to take advantage of that. And we really appreciate him being willing to help with that. We're going to really try to make an effort at getting the word out about Rotary this year. John Bodette, thankfully, has agreed to continue in his role as chairman of the programs committee. Mike Mullen, you've never looked happier. It's nice to see your smiley face up there. And Mike, yeah, he has agreed to step in as social committee chairman, and that's going to be fun. We've talked about that already, and we really want to make this a fun year. So talk to Mike if you have any ideas for social activities. Troy Fritz, thankfully, is also agreeing to step in or to continue on as the foundation fundraising chair. And then you know who our happy people are that are running the Summertime by George event. Gary Marsden is going to continue to work on our governance committee, and that really is a helpful committee to have for us to continue, or to have that continuity of leadership and policy. And Justin Wampak, this is an evolving thing. Justin isn't here today, but you may recall that a couple of years ago there was a big push for new generations as a new avenue of service. We're going to explore that this year. Our bylaws have not been amended. We have not formally adopted that as an avenue of service. But we want to explore that, what that's going to look like. And Justin has agreed to kind of champion that avenue of service, or look into that for us. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. So as you know, the Rotary motto for a long time has been service above self. I'm going to now transition into the vision that's been cast by our new Rotary International president, and talk a little bit about what he has set out there for us for a goal. His goal that he set has taken this idea of service and kind of raised the bar a little bit. So our new RI president, and I'm going to butcher this name, I'll probably need my dad's help with this, he lived in Japan for a while. I think it's Sakuji Tanaka, I think is the correct way to pronounce that. Does that sound right? Okay. His theme this year is peace through service. So it's not just service, but service in the sense of how does service lead to peace. And I brought along the new banner, which, if that unfurled, hopefully I have it right side up. I guess you guys will be able to tell. That's the new banner for Rotary International this year. And I put in there a quote from President Tanaka, and I'll just read that. It says, "By making service our priority, we put the needs of others above our own and transform our perspective. We emphasize more deeply with the difficulties of other people. We become more generous with our time and resources. Through better understanding, we learn to respect others. With mutual respect, we live with others in peace." And I don't know if anyone has ever put it quite as eloquently as that in terms of the bridge or the connection there is between serving others and living in peace with others. So I thought that was nicely done, and if you need further motivation for doing service, whether in the community or globally, hopefully this will help to motivate you. So you're going to hear that a lot from me in the coming year, but that's really going to be our focus, is making this truly we already are a service club, but to really emphasize the service component. So I've laid out 4 goals that I have for us in the coming year. The first is to rediscover or to celebrate the impact of Rotary. And what I mean by that is that we, as Rotarians, sometimes our view of Rotary is maybe as small as this. And if we haven't been in the club for a long time or aren't familiar with the history of Rotary, we might not really know what all it does and what all it has done and what all that it can do. And I'm going to do what I can this year to kind of reintroduce information about the history of Rotary and programs of Rotary, and kind of get us more excited about what it is that we do as Rotarians. The second is to pursue quality growth in membership. And I'll talk about a little bit more about that on one of the upcoming slides. And the third one is a broad one, but it's a big one for me: leave a legacy of service. At the end of this year, I want us to be able to look back and point to what we've done to make our community and our world a better place. And then last, truly, I want this to be fun. You won't come here on Tuesdays if you're not having fun. And so I'm going to try to make this a good, fun year for everybody, both in our Tuesday meetings and in social activities. So if you're not having fun, come tell me, and I'll see what I can do to make it more fun. So on this idea of rediscovering and celebrating the impact of Rotary, number one, I want to increase public awareness of Rotary's history and accomplishments. I've been talking to Kevin already about what we can do in terms of local advertising and really in taking advantage of Summertime by George and the exposure we have there to let folks know what Rotary does. I'm not sure everybody really gets it, and we're going to try to increase that awareness. I also want to increase our own awareness. Like I mentioned before, I'm not sure we all really even know. You know, you look at some of those programs that I've laid out down at the bottom. You know, some of those things we just take for granted. But Rotary was the first service club ever, and it has grown to be the largest, and it has presence in over 200 countries with over 32,000 members. We are more responsible than any other organization for the near eradication of polio in the world. We have a lot to be proud of. We've accomplished a lot, and I want us to be aware of that. I also want to increase our awareness of what we can do, because as much as we've done as a club, there are a lot of other programs we haven't gotten involved in. And you're not going to hear me say that we have to do this or we have to do that, but I want to at least make you aware of what's out there. And if some people develop some passion for that, and we get some champions that are willing to step up and take some leadership in those areas, let's do it. Because there are probably more opportunities for service than there are people in this room. And we just need to find people who are willing to step up and lead some of those. And then I want to rediscover our passion for public service. And you'll hear me say that over and over, but I'll mention it in one of my last slides, but you know, I really believe that good leaders become great when they lead in an area that they're passionate about. So I'm hoping that you'll find an area that you're passionate about and then step up. I'm not going to read this whole slide. This caught my eye yesterday. I don't know how many of you read CNN's website or caught this story, but talk about relevance. When we think of Polio Plus, sometimes we think of it as an old program. Many people in this room haven't known anybody that even had polio. Many of you obviously have known people or maybe been affected directly in your family. But it's one of those issues that's kind of just out there. Well, here it is. This was in yesterday's news. The 3 countries in the world that still have not eradicated polio are Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. And largely because of the political interference and the local cultural interference that's going on. Here, this is in northern Afghanistan, and they are still trying to go around and immunize for polio, but now you have a Taliban leader standing up and saying, unless the United States stops its drone strikes, we will stop the polio vaccination program. Which, you know, talk about cutting your nose off to spite your face. Yeah. But I'll leave the politics out of it, but I wanted to capture this slide just so that you can see how relevant what we are doing as Rotarians still is in the world today. Membership. Membership always, or it can be controversial, but it shouldn't be. We are a special club, and we have a special membership, one that we should be proud of. We're a club that people want to be in. And our impact, whether locally or abroad, is enhanced by the strength of our membership. So I do want to see our club grow, and I think everybody in here probably does, but every time I talk about growth of membership, what I hear back is, well, we need to retain the quality. And I agree with that. Steve and I have talked about setting a goal out there, and this is something I can't just arbitrarily do because we need to make sure it's in line with strategic visioning. We talked about a goal of, you know, maybe if we want to put a target out there, let's pick a number. Let's say 150 by 2015. What would that look like? Steve and I, when we were at PETS training last year, ran into clubs from the Iowa area. Some of them have over 300 members. We think our club is a large club. By comparison to those, you know, we're average at best in terms of size. Numbers are not the goal, though quality is. And so I actually put this quote in here that appears in our club's policies and practices. It says, prospective new members, talking about the possible new members for our club, who are interested in an international service organization, who possess good character and positive community reputation, and are an owner, executive, or senior manager, and whose industry classification is available per our club's classification policy, will be considered for membership at St. Cloud Rotary. So the policy statement is there. I didn't write that. That's in there. But I think that policy statement and the feelings of a lot of members of this club have been part of what has shaped the strong membership that we have in this club. And I want to encourage that. And how would we get to the goal, by the way? Well, think about it. If each of us invited and obtained it for membership just one other person in the next 3 years, and only half of us succeeded, we'd meet our goal. In fact, probably more like a third of us succeeded, we'd meet our goal. That's how easy it is. We just need to be the best ambassadors for our club and reaching out to the executives and the leaders and the owners and and the young entrepreneurs and those folks who are meeting these criteria to continue to make our club the best in this area. So I put in there, we will actively pursue prospective members who are leaders in their community and in their industry, but we will also develop and serve the leaders and Rotarians of tomorrow. And that's where that New Generations program comes in, and that's what I'm talking to Justin about, is there's programs like Rotaract and Interact that are set up specifically for that purpose of developing the next generation, the new generation of community leaders and Rotary leaders and Rotarians. So that's what we're not going to neglect that younger generation. We're going to reach out to them, but we're going to try to do it through that New Generations program. One of my other goals was leave a legacy of service. And if you know me by now, you know that that's become kind of my focus. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that until I got involved with international service, Rotary was just a club to me. It was just a place to go have lunch on a Tuesday. And I'm sure there are still people in this room that feel that way as well, or are there right now. That's where I was a few years ago. When I got involved in international service, it ignited something in me that caused me to see what Rotary can do, and it really became an important part of my life. Not everybody is that passionate about international service, I get that. But each of you can be passionate about something, and I'm hoping to help you find that if you haven't found it yet, and ignite that passion. So we're going to expand on our success at Summertime by George, and we're also going to look for our next signature project. And what I mean by that, we're not going to abandon Lake George, so don't get that impression at all. But Chris and I have already met with Scott Slotnick, forgive me, Scott Slotnick from the Parks Department. We talked about what can we do in the next year, or even building toward a future project. Maybe it can't all be done during my term. Maybe it's something that Steve or Diane completes. It's a big project. But I'll let you know that right now, at least what's on the table and what we're talking about potentially is a band shell at Lake George. And what would that look like? Now, I don't want to ignite any controversies yet. We're sensitive to the layout of the park and everything else, but we're going to at least explore the idea of having something permanent that could operate as a stage for continuing Summertime by George activities, as well as maybe a Shakespeare in the Park kind of a thing, or St. Cloud Tech activities, or who knows what. Maybe arts programming, maybe things with great theater, who knows. But it could really be a neat asset, I think, and we're going to explore that. And of course, for me, it's going to be an emphasis also on the global community. Some of these pictures, by the way, are significant. I'll just highlight them a little bit. In the upper left, there's one of the working wells, if you don't recall it, or I mean water taps. The water works, and it worked as of the time we were down there. Our team is going to be presenting next. The team that went down there most recently is going to be presenting on this year's program next month. But I'll highlight what's in the upper right corner. If you haven't heard yet, the people of the community of Los Caneos were so moved by what this club did in bringing water to them. They painted their entire new water tank to match our shirts, mimicking the logo on there that we had come up with. And that's what that says on there in the background. You can see it's clean water for Los Caneos. Which, by the way, we had to laugh at down there because one of our translators reminded us that means clean water for the bananas. But we didn't know that when we made the t-shirts. But anyway, so that's they named their town the bananas. We can't help it. But then in the bottom row, those are all pictures from this past year, or the most recent trip. You'll see Aaron there painting the walls of a little concession stand area next to the clinic. Jurgen is there treating one of the local patients with using one of our translator friends as a translator. And then that group in the bottom right, by the way, is a group of community leaders from one of the little villages in the Dominican Republic that is counting on us to bring them water next year. Oh, God. They've already been collecting money. They've already got their community organization put together. And we met with them while we were down there to talk to them, and they're excited about having us down there next year. So start making your travel plans, January or February. That's kind of what we're looking at. So anyway, more to come. And then we obviously can't neglect the other avenues of service. Vocational service. Rotary has always been about vocational service from the very beginning. We're going to set a goal at least of trying to have quarterly vocational tours and site visits. And this is, by the way, this is Jill's area. So she's going to work with John and try to coordinate these site visits. Our student scholarships, we're going to try something a little bit newer. At least this is the idea we've thrown out there. is that what if we mix school, student scholarships this year with a school project? We'll get more information to you, but the general idea is, what if we said to the schools that are proposing their student Rotarians, okay, there's a scholarship for an individual to earn at the end of the year, but you as a group of student Rotarians come up with a project, and we'll help fund it for their school. And so that's kind of what we have in mind there. So that's more to come on that as well. Classification talks for new and old members. That's not an age thing, I should say long-time members. But you know, oftentimes our classification talks are from the newest members, and it's great to hear from them. But there are a lot of folks in this club that have been in here for a lot longer than I have, that I'd like to hear from what they did, either if they're retired now or if they're still working. So we're going to try to mix those up a little bit too. Club service, obviously, it ain't broken, I'm not going to fix it. We've got great programs, and I want to continue with those great quality programs that John and his committee have put together. I've already talked about public relations and the importance of getting the word out. We're going to work on a new club banner, by the way. I don't know if you knew it or how many of you knew it, but you know those banners on the wall? We don't have it. So if you're going to visit anywhere that has, where you'd like to exchange a banner, you can't bring them one right now because we're out. So as long as we have to order new ones, a couple of us have talked about it and thought, you know, hey, why not sort of look at what might be most relevant to St. Cloud Rotary today? So if you're interested in that and would like to be involved in designing a new banner, talk to Kevin Halen here. That's going to be in his committee as well, and hopefully we'll get those done soon. And then I already talked about new generations. I threw out some of the logos there for Rotaract, Interact, Rylock. This has a lot of potential. If you have an interest in that area, if you'd like to get involved in mentoring young people or helping to start a Rotaract club or an Interact club, talk to Justin. I don't want him to try to carry this ball by himself, but if you're interested in that, there's an area that you can serve as well. And finally, and most important, we're going to have fun. And I do want Rotary, you know, we think of service, sometimes people think of that as burden. I think service is fun, but even if you don't, we're going to make sure we do lots of social stuff. Obviously, Summertime by George has been a huge hit. Mike's got some great ideas. He's already come up with the box baseball game. I hope a lot of you are planning on going. The Arlo Guthrie concert is coming up in the fall. Hopefully we'll be doing some fun social activities, maybe even once a month or once every couple of months. Plus we'll try to make the meetings fun, probably shake things up a little bit. I know Jerry is offering to do the Christmas party again this year, and so we're looking forward to that. And we're going to make that fun here. So, it's my last slide. I appreciate you staying away. I'm just going to cast a few more things out there. One of my goals, one of my visions for the club is that we will truly be the premier service club in central Minnesota. Our club is already full of good community and industry leaders, but I believe that good leaders become great when they lead in their area of passion. So I'd like you to lead and serve in the area where you are most passionate. And I'd like to encourage everybody to get involved in that. Find the area that you find your interest in. You don't have to do everything. You can't all do everything, but everybody can do something. So try to find an area that you'd like to serve in and get involved. So together we will make a lasting impact on our community and on the world. So thank you for your trust. I look forward to serving you in the coming year. Hopefully we'll make a good year together. Thank you. I think we're, oh yeah.
No, I forgot. I need one more person at setup tomorrow. I did want to assign somebody with that short notice, so if anybody's available at 3 o'clock, please let me know. Thank you.
All right. Any other business for the good of the order, or any other last minute announcements?
Next week's program?
Next week's program. Yes.
Next week's program, we get President Mary Ann Benedict from the College of St. Benedict, and then we're going to try something different. We have 2 mini programs for July 3rd. Alan is going to talk about a Rotary Foundation update, and then we'll have, in a totally unrelated subject, we'll have someone from the Violent Offender Task Force to talk about the growth of heroin in our communities.
All right, we are adjourned.